Now for the top 36 junior final. Let's take you through the starting grid. It will take place over 11 minutes plus an additional lap. Harry Bartel starts from pole position. He'll be joined by Thijs van Wijk on the front row. Row 2 is the UK and Italy with Jacob Ashcroft and Lorenzo Giaquinto. Trinidad and Tobago and the Netherlands with Naomi Garcia and Boris Maximov rounding out row 3. Latvia and the United Kingdom on row 4 with Tom Strehler and Kai Clark. The Netherlands and Canada completing the top 10 with David Dorrestein and Ryan Gandor. Cameron Nelson, Noah Janssen, Max Swiderski, Drago Savisil-Kutai, Ollie Wise, Rory Armstrong, Andrea Remy, Lieke van Berkel, Thomas Verheyen and Georgia's Marta Gobahidze round out the top 20. Completing the 36-strong grid are Jake Menton, Alexander Van Meeuwen, Will Archer, Vlad Tomanchuk, Brad Van de Weken, Matthias Jellerup, Tom Reger, Enzo Riccio, Lars Lambers, and Antoine Lemieux with Ilya Sheremeta, Isaac Barker, Bastian Ottensamer, Adrien Stions, Elliot Surtees, and the Czech Republic's Jakub Kubera. So it is now down to Harry Bartel and Thijs van Wijk to lead the field into the tram lines. Field starts closing up into the customary 2x2 formation. 36 drivers made it through, with 5 being eliminated after the superheats. But now we are ready with the red lights on the gantry. Revs rise. Lights are on. Lights are out. The junior Rotax final is a go, and there's been a lot of tussling just outside of the top 3 rows, and we've got a couple of spinners, and it's going to cause a little bit of panic and pandemonium. We've also got the 271, Adrien Stions, the 224, Vlad Tomanchuk. I even did see the 202 of Andrea Remy from Switzerland spinning around, I'm afraid. But it is Harry Bartel that leads the way, closely followed by Jacob Ashcroft in the 222. Van Wijk now in 3rd, ahead of Giaquinto. Maximov now in 5th, and it looks to be ahead of Maximov. Maximov rounding out the top 5, ahead of Garcia. Looks to be Kai Clark, might be in the top 7 now, or might even be 6th. So Bartel leads after the opening lap, but not for much longer. Ashcroft is through. So the Brit from Western-super-Mare now has his countryman back up the inside, but that opened the door for Van Wijk. That also opened the door up for Giaquinto, who's through. And Ashcroft now loses out to Maximov. After turn 1, within 4 corners, Jacob Ashcroft lost just as many places, dropping from the race lead to now 5th. Kai Clark in 6th, Ryan Gandor 7th, Naomi Garcia and Ava Dorrestein. They round out the top 9, and they're the leading train. Tom Strehler from Latvia has dropped all the way down into 10th position, maybe even make that 11th, because I think Ollie Wise has got through in the 256. Yes, he has. Now a scramble for 3rd. Maximov up the inside of Giaquinto, who instantly gets the crossover, but Ashcroft tries to make the best of it. Now goes up from 5th to 4th. So Maximov being on the short end of the stick on that one, and has ended up behind Ryan Gandor, I believe, as Jacob Ashcroft trying to put the pressure on Lorenzo Giaquinto in the MKC Motorsport number 220, who rounds out the top 3. But Harry Bartel And Days Van Wyk have pulled away. Ava Dotterstein was side by side round the outside of Ollie Wise, and she manages to keep in front. Cameron Nelson has also made some inroads. Up through on the inside at turn 12 goes Ashcroft on Giaquinto. And now Ryan Gandor has an opportunity to get himself into the top 3. But Maximov straight up the inside at turn 3 on the Canadian. And Kai Clark is also going to try and thread the eye of the needle. He gets through at turn 5. Now Garcia at 6. So Ryan Gandor has got Cameron Nelson breathing down the back of his exhaust and is looking up the inside into turn 7. But the Canadian holds on for the moment. We might have one driver not taking any further part in this race. Adrian's Tions is out of it, I'm afraid, on the opening lap. I see the kart stricken on the outside of turns 1 and 2. And Tions is currently marshal post number 3 and is watching, unfortunately, by the sidelines. Just over 7 minutes to go, and Van Wyk is not allowing Harry Bartle any opportunity to breathe and to get away, and has now got the race lead. Van Wyk has got the race lead. What's more, Maximov now up to 4th past Giaquinto. Down the Europelan they go with just over 6 minutes and 40 left on the timer. And Ashcroft is the fastest out there. Bartle looking one way, then the other to try and get through. Oh, and is there an issue for Van Wyk? Van Wyk's just given whatever pipe work on the back of the engine a bit of a slap there, as if to try and put something back into position. And there's a scramble outside of the top 5 through turn number 12. And now Harry Bartle gets back up the inside of Van Wyk, retakes the race lead on the start of lap 6. Ashcroft, for the last lap or two, has been fastest of anybody. The 222 from Dan Holland Racing just put in a 56.415. He's going to go for P2. Slingshots past Van Wyk. Through at turn 7 goes the Brit. We still have 35 runners and riders out of the 36 that started when we got going about 6.5 minutes, well, about 5.5 minutes ago. So we are at half time in this 11-minute encounter plus an additional lap. Maximov is running solo in 4th at the moment, ahead of Giaquinto. Meanwhile, behind, a bit of a scrap happening. Oh, Ollie Wise now up into P6, but Cameron Nelson's going to get through on him. And so does the recovering Tom Strela from Latvia. Kai Clark and Noah Janssen. Now, where did Noah Janssen start? He started 12th. He's being chased by Max Zadursky. But look at this scrap for the race lead down the Europelan. Ashcroft was in the wheel tracks right up close and personal to Harry Bartle. Bartle went defensive into turn 7. Van Wyk thought there was an opportunity in the offing, and it didn't quite pan out that way for the 246 from the Netherlands. They come in at turn number 11, and still it is next to nothing. They were half a second apart after lap 6. What's the coverage after lap 7? It is 0.4 of a second, and Ashcroft was less than 9/100ths behind Harry Bartle. New fastest lap of the race is to the driver all the way down in 22nd. Difficult final for Thomas Verheyen, 56.284, but Ashcroft trying everything. And Van Wyk is looking to the inside, down into turn 7, has to back out of it at the last moment, just before the braking zone. A little tap of the brakes, get out of the way, slot back in behind Ashcroft, and get through turn 7 nice and neatly. Still 3.5 minutes to go, plus an additional lap. And whilst the three have been battling, look who's been closing in the meantime. Boris Maximov and Lorenzo Giaquinto. Ollie Wise and Cameron Nelson are literally next to nothing apart. But there is an absolute almighty dogfight from 10th downwards. And there are drivers that are separated by next to nothing. Not even tenths of a second, it's more like hundredths or even thousandths coming across the start-finish line. You've got Sidersky, Dorrestein, Van Meeuwen, Garcia, Archer, Van der Weyken, Gandor, Armstrong, Avisil Kutai, Lambers, Verheyen, Kopahidze, and that rounds out the top 22. But Cameron Nelson still trying to keep ahead of Ollie Wise in the meantime. Well, behind, trying to get ahead of Ollie Wise in the meantime. And there's still 2.5 minutes to go. So there is still a lot of action, even though things might be a bit more spread out at the sharper end of the field, sharper end of the top 10. From around about 10th downwards, things are really, really closing up. So Ashcroft, again, trying to go one way then the other, trying to get past Bartel to reassert himself as the race leader. But Bartel just keeping the cart placed exactly where he's allowed to, not staying off the racing line, not giving an inch to Ashcroft to have an opportunity. And again, the same tactic employed down into turn 7 off of the Europlan. And then Bartel managing to get a little bit of a better traction purchase out of turn 7, then through into 8, so ends up being about a cart length and a half lead over Jacob Ashcroft. But Boris Maximov has been pedalling rather quickly at the minute, and he is sensing an opportunity to get into the top 3 and, more importantly, get on the podium. So 3 laps to go, including this one. We've got a black and white warning flag. It looks to be for the 273, I would imagine. So the 273 has got the black and white warning flag. Funny enough, that is the race leader, Harry Bartel. Ashcroft again. It might just be that the race director is not quite happy with how Bartel may be controlling the race. But now, any one of these 4 drivers, maybe even make that 5 if Giaquinto gets close enough to close in on the win. There's Vlad Tomenchuk, the last of the drivers out on the circuit, has changed for 3rd. Maximov gets through on Van Wijk. 2 laps to go. Bartel versus Ashcroft. And Ashcroft goes up the inside through at turn 2 on Harry Bartel and retakes the race lead. Bartel back up the inside at 4. Now, was there the slightest amount of touch between the pair? That's allowed Maximov to get through. That's allowed Van Wijk to get through. And I did say about Giaquinto. Giaquinto is now with them. Ashcroft trying to go high wide round the outside at turn 7. Clash between Maximov and Van Wijk. They're both off the circuit. They have just cost themselves each a podium position by clashing out of turn 7. Ashcroft got through. Giaquinto now is currently P3. And look who's closed on in. Cameron Nelson is 4th and gunning for silverware. 1 more lap to go. 1,360 metres remain in the Junior Road Tax final here for round 1. And it's anybody's guess who is going to win this one. Top 3 covered by 7 tenths. Ashcroft now going on the aggressive. Now has seen Giaquinto, seen Nelson, and says, right, I need to get past Bartel quickly. And now he's trying to open the door. Bartel defends again. Nelson through on Giaquinto for P3 down the Europlan. Giaquinto again also trying his level best. Looking up the inside of Cameron Nelson. Slight touch and the Italian loses 4th to the recovering Tom Strella from Latvia, who's right on the back of his DHR teammates as they head into turn 10 for the final time. But it's the run to the final corner, and it's going to be Harry Bartel that is victorious at Genk in the final by 0.2 of a second. Jacob Ashcroft ends up P2 ahead of Cameron Nelson. So the Strawberry Racing driver picks up the top step of the podium and was the standout driver with 2 wins in the heats, and still, despite not taking a win in the super heats earlier on this morning, picks up the most points, 55, for a win in the final when it comes to the championship. So Bartel wins for Strawberry here at Genk, ahead of Ashcroft. Nelson rounds out the top 3, so a 2-3 for Dan Holland Racing. MKC Motorsport should be proud of Lorenzo Giaquinto after that sterling effort from the Italian, who finishes 4th. Tom Strella and Ollie Wise round out the top 6 places. Thijs van Wijk, despite the clash with Boris Maximov, ends up 7th, ahead of Noah Janssen, with Boris Maximov and Ava Dorrestein rounding out the top 10. Max Sidursky 11th, ahead of Alexander Van Meeuwen, who started outside of the top 20, made up 10 places, finished 12th. Kai Clark, Lars Lambers, Thomas Verheyen ran at the top 15, ahead of Naomi Garcia, Mate Kobahidze, Bran van der Weken, Will Archer and Ryan Gandor round out the top 20. Jake Menton, Dagos Avisil-Kutai, Andrea Remy, Matthias Jellerup, Antoine Lemieux, Enzo Riccio, Ilya Sherameta, Bastian Ottensama, Tom Heger and Jakub Kubera ran at the top 30. Completing the 33 finishes, it looks like, Elliot Surtees, Rory Armstrong and Lika van Berkel. Vlad Tomenchuk was the last driver circulating, ended up a lap down in 34th, and we lost Isaac Barker on lap 9 and Adrian Tions on the opening lap. But it's Bartel victorious for Strawberry here at Genk.